I know, what I know, we are one. What I know, what I know, no, 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 we are one.
It all starts with the people. One people, we stand all together, one voice saying yes we can. Each one, reach one till we pull ourselves up, cause we all one fam. From the rest to the block, to the Perry, to the Rock, we connect that love. Cause the people with power feel the power of the people when we stand as one.
I got you stuck off the realness. We be indigenous, you heard of us. Max Heaven, the murderer, spreading the love with the water and earth. And the stand against hate, gotta know what the purpose is. We rise, the climate is changing, the signs of the times. It's time to start praying. Pray for the world and community. Prayers are more powerful when we're in unity.
What I know, we are one. What I know, what I know, no, 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 we are one.
Woke up today, hungry for a change, new path to take. Can't stay the same, it's been too long. Pointing out who's right or wrong, can you hear me out? All we need is a little bit of love. Take time to heal and it starts with us. Hand in hand, I put my trust. In one world, reunite, it's a must. Hold on to hope, we can overload. We can break the code with a single note. Sing out for the world to hear that our time is now, no more for tears. I looked into my son's eyes, a new day in a new light. Lift the veil and dwell so peaceful. Come together, one world, one people.
What I know, we are one. What I know, what I know, no, 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 we are one. It's who you are, it's who I am. We all bleed the same blood, yeah. Hey. We all bleed the same blood, yeah.
We got beautiful differences, let me give you a peek. Over 500 tribes, but we all unique. And if we could not compete to eat, nothing could beat us. Jealousy is more dangerous than diabetes. See this unity? Imagine what it looked like. You would think we would do whatever it took, right? I would do anything for this good life. We could do anything if we unite. Come on.
Young native, you are my savior. Say your prayer for our inspiration. From the block to your reservation. Any color, all my relations. From the basement, worldwide invasion. Every day we're painting our faces. Fighting back but learning our language. Dancing our dances, saying our prayers.
What I know, we are one. What I know, what I know, no, 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 we are one. We only got one world. We only got one world. We only got one world. Hey. All we got is one voice, one choice, one earth, one love, one birth, one life to live. One life to live, yeah.
One people, we stand all together, one voice saying yes we can. Each one, reach one till we pull ourselves up, cause we all one fam. From the rest to the block, to the Perry, to the Rock, we connect that love. Cause the people with power feel the power of the people when we stand as one.
What I know, we are one. What I know, what I know, no, 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 we are one. What I know, what I know, no, 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 we are one. We are one. What I know, no, 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 we are one. We are one.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society. We are grateful to gather on this beautiful morning, both in person and online, for a time of inspiration, reflection, and connection. Whether you join us today with joys in your heart, weighted with burdens, or searching for meaningful connections, we're glad you're here. I'm Quanda Hood, Worship Associate of the Unitarian Universalist Society. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a middle-aged West Indian woman fighting hard to remain 5'6", with purpley red hair that's really curly and messy today. Inevitably, I usually wear something purple. Today I went a little more red. Standing in UUS's pulpit at the front of our sanctuary. Our sanctuary is filled with people of all ages. Through the window walls of our sanctuary, we connect to the outdoors, where today it is an overcast, yet I see bits of blue sky out there, so there's potential. It's a little chilly, a little too chilly for me, but we'll bundle up and we'll carry on. Let us pause for a moment as we gather to give thanks to this land and all who have cared for it over the centuries, particularly the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk, the Meskwaki, and the Oceti-Sakowin nations. In light of Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday, October the 9th, we proudly honor the true stewards of this land, the Indigenous people who have cared for and cultivated these territories for countless generations. We recognize and celebrate the rich cultural heritage, wisdom, and resilience of Indigenous communities, whose contributions to our society are immeasurable. This day serves as a reminder of the enduring connection between Indigenous people and the land, as well as the importance of preserving their traditions, languages, and ancestral knowledge. It is a time to acknowledge the historical injustices that they have endured and to reaffirm our commitment to justice, equality, and reconciliation. As we commemorate Indigenous Peoples Day, let us also commit ourselves to fostering understanding, respect, and cooperation between all people, while actively working towards a more inclusive and equitable future. By acknowledging and valuing the contributions of Indigenous communities, we move closer to a world where their voices are heard, their rights are respected, and their cultures are celebrated. As people of many ages, genders, races, sexual orientations, classes, abilities, and health statuses, we know how important it is to come together as a radically welcoming spiritual community. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and support one another. We are guided by the shared principles, sources, and values of our living religious tradition. This morning, as we gather in grace, we will celebrate and explore love's hand. Love is the power that holds us together. It is the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. If you're new to our congregation, we invite you to learn more about us after the service. For those here in person, you can talk to a greeter in the atrium. For those online, there is a link to a visitor form in the YouTube notes that will let us connect with you. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce CB Beal as our guest speaker this Sunday. CB, whose pronouns are they, them, theirs, specializes in facilitating learning experiences that involve issues of marginalization, oppression, and privilege, helping participants hold the complexities of our lives in perspective to co-create a safer, braver space within which people can be challenged to learn and grow. CB led worship virtually here 4 times during the pandemic, and we're delighted to welcome them into our physical space this morning. Before we move forward, I just want to express my personal gratitude for the incredible workshop and training on building beloved community through radical welcoming and radical action. It was truly enlightening and transformative experience. The dedication and expertise that CB and Abena, Sankoff, and Hotep brought to the events this weekend were evident throughout. The discussions, exercises, and insights shared during the workshop were not only informative, but also deeply inspiring and challenging. We all gained valuable insight, understanding, and tangible actions to bring radical welcoming that can only lead to positive change in our beloved congregation and community. Your commitment to fostering a sense of belonging for all participants was commendable. These workshops will create a ripple effect, empowering individuals to take meaningful action here at UUS and beyond. You set the stage for safe and welcoming space, allowing for open, honest dialogue about challenging topics. This approach helped us to grow and learn together, and I'm humble and grateful to have been a part of it. Thank you for sharing your gifts with us.
I'm CB Beal. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs. I'm a short, fat, white, trans person with a patterned shirt, short hair, and a goatee. These are the words of Mia Birdsong. We're all conditioned to try to move at the pace of patriarchy, capitalism, and white supremacy, not at the pace of love and humanity and liberation. And if you and I talk at the speed of liberation, I imagine we'll be less out of breath.
And now, join us in singing opening hymn 131, Love Will Guide Us.
You are able.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can live from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace will stride us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard
As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety, to unite us in worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words as Aria lights our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mysteries of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to serve those in need, this we promise, this we covenant with life and one another. Each week we light a candle for justice and healing to acknowledge our interdependence with the natural world and with all members of the global community, especially those most vulnerable. We light this candle so that we may not be numb to the injustice and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love as we work together in solidarity with others for liberation, justice, and healing. Together we create resilience and hope. Today, as we light this candle, we're particularly mindful of the contributing struggles around the world due to the increases in the devastating effects of climate change. We also hold in our hearts the people of Israel and Palestine during this time of war. We must not also forget the challenges facing Indigenous people still today, such as the physical and mental health deficiencies, missing and murdered Indigenous people, land rights, water rights, treaty rights, boarding school healing, and reparations, discrimination, hate, and poverty. As I light this candle, let's hold a time of silence to listen to our hearts and bodies, or perhaps to lift up prayers.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nick Kaplan. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a shorter, rounder, non-binary person. And today I have a picture book with us for the Time for All Ages. So, pictures should be up on the screens, but if anyone would like to come closer and be able to see the pictures in the book as I'm holding it, you're welcome to come join us over here. All right. Our book today is called I Am Love, a book of compassion. And it was written by Susan Verde, and the art, or the pictures, were by Peter H. Reynolds. When I see someone going through a storm of hurt and unfairness, of anger and sadness, when the sun disappears and the skies grow dark, and I see there is fear, I ask myself, what can I do to help let the light back in? I put my hands on my heart and listen. And that is where I find the answer. I have compassion. I act with tenderness. I am love. I can listen and not say a word. I can be there. Love is being present. I can hug and hold and say, everything will be all right. Love is comfort. I can speak softly and choose my words and actions carefully. Love is gentle. I can give thanks for all I have and am able to share. Love is gratitude. I can keep my mind and body safe and healthy. Love is taking care of me. I can express what's important to me. Love is creative. I can know that no one is perfect. Love is understanding. I can do my best to make things better when something is wrong. Love is effort. I can celebrate those I've loved before. Love is remembering. I can find goodness in a kind word, a helping hand, or a shared smile. Love is tiny gestures. I can breathe in the air that the world shares and know all creatures are made from the very same stardust. Love is connection. When the clouds roll in, for others and for me, I know there is something I can do. I can let my heart lead the way. I am love. You are love. We are love. And with love, we will weather the storm and light up the sky together. The end. But before we do our lantern ritual today, we're going to learn a new song together. Emily is going to lead us in the new song that's going to accompany our lantern ritual for a while.
Yes. This is called As You Go. You don't need to stand. I'll sing and then you can repeat. Thank you. As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go. Good, let's try it all together. I know you're not going to get everything right. That's not the point. Can I have another seed? Here we go. As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go. Thank you. You did a wonderful job.
So now we'll do our lantern ritual. So any children or youth or teachers or anyone else who would like to head to our religious education classes, you can come forward. I'll lead you all in the words while Leah, our religious education coordinator, lights our lantern. Okay? All right, so congregation, join me. Take the flame of our chalice so that you have our light, our love, and our hope with you as you explore our faith together. Children, youth, and teachers, we send you with our blessings and our love. All right, children, youth, and teachers, who a lot of them have escaped already, we take this flame and your love with us on the journey. Now we sing our song, right? Yeah. As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go.
Power on. Sorry. What would service be with me if I wasn't doing something weird, right? We're going to enter into a time of meditative and contemplative prayer. I invite you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the stillness of this moment envelop you. In the quiet of your mind, let us explore the profound meditation on being called into love and into community. As you settle into your meditative space, feel the gentle rhythm of your breath. Inhale deeply, drawing in the life-giving energy of the universe. Exhale, releasing any tension or distractions that may weigh upon your heart. Picture in your mind a circle of diverse souls, each with their unique stories, experiences, and dreams. This circle represents the community to which you are called to love. Imagine it expanding, encompassing all those whom you encounter on your life's journey. Now contemplate the idea of being called to love. Love is not just a fleeting emotion, it is a conscious choice, a way of being in the world. Love is the light that connects us all, the thread that weaves together the tapestry of our existence. It is in this loving awareness that we find purpose. As you sit in this meditative space, consider the unique gifts and qualities that you bring to your community. Reflect on the kindness, compassion, and understanding that resides within you. These are the tools with which you can build bridges, heal wounds, and nurture connections. In your mind's eye, envision your actions and words as seeds of love, planted in the fertile soil of your community. Each act of kindness, each gesture of support is like a drop of water nourishing the roots of the collective spirit. Watch as these seeds grow and blossom, spreading love and unity in all directions. Now let your awareness turn inward. Acknowledge any barriers that may hinder your ability to love and to communicate fully. Are there fears, judgments, or biases that need to be released? As we exhale together, imagine these barriers dissolving, melting away like mist in the morning sun. As you continue to breathe deeply, embrace the idea that love knows no boundaries. It extends beyond race, religion, gender, and all the artificial divisions that separate us. May peace be with you. And now we're going to hear from Pete Brokaw, who's a UUS member, on our stewardship update.
Good morning. I am Pete Brokaw, and I'm a member of the Stewardship Committee, and I'm here to give the update on the ongoing pledge campaign so far. But first, I have a small confession to make. I am a paper stacker. When I collect the daily mail, I bring it inside, I try to throw away the stuff into the recycling bin that I don't want to read, and then I put everything else on a nice stack on my kitchen counter. You should also know I have an aversion to open spaces on my kitchen counter, so it works out really well. I have good intentions. I'm going to read the magazines, I'm going to pay my bills, et cetera, but I often get distracted and I'm off doing other things, and the stack is still there. And when it's time to fix dinner, I need another space on the counter, and so I take that stack of mail and I put it on yesterday's stack. And so it goes and grows. Eventually I can even forget what's in the stack. My point is that I don't think I'm the only paper stacker here. But don't worry, if you've received an envelope from the Stewardship Committee, it may be in your stack on the kitchen counter. I'm encouraging you to find that envelope, read the letter, spend a little time thinking about what it says, and submit your pledge to support the next year's budget. It really helps the folks that are putting together next year's budget to hear from us as early as possible. The goal of this year's campaign is $400,000, and as of early this morning, we have received 60 pledges for $131,600. Those numbers are being updated. Emma is working on the latest additions. Don't forget that we have a challenge fund. That's about $21,800. If you can increase your pledge from last year, or if you've never pledged before, that increase will be matched dollar for dollar by the challenge fund. So far, we've been able to use about $10,236.40 from the challenge fund, which brings the total amount raised to $141,833. So a little more than a third of the way to our goal. And the good news is there's still about $11,560 still in the challenge fund. If you've already made your pledge, thank you for responding quickly. And finally, a big thank you to Emma Barnum, who is working very hard behind the scenes, taking care of our pledges and also helping the Stewardship Committee throughout the campaign. So thank you for listening.
Before I begin, I would like to thank you all for wearing N95 quality masks. It is because you are doing that that I can unmask. The readings this morning's, the first two, are accurate translations of words that have been collected in the Hebrew and Christian scriptures. In the book of Isaiah, Isaiah is speaking. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Who shall I send? Who will go for us?" And I said, "Here I am, send me." And in the book of Acts, which this is beginning right smack in the middle of a story that begins, "Meanwhile, Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of God, went to the high priests and asked him for letters to the synagogues at Damascus, so if he found anyone who belonged to the way, men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. Now, as he was going along and approaching Damascus, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice calling to him, 'Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?' He looked around and asked, Who are you?" The reply came, "I'm Jesus, who you're persecuting. But get up and enter the city, and you will be told what you are to do." The men who were traveling with him stood speechless because they did not know what was going on. Okay, that's a little, not exactly how it was written in the Bible. Saul got up from the ground, and though his eyes were opened, he could see nothing. So they led him by the hand and brought him to Damascus. I don't often preach using Hebrew and Christian scriptures as the stories to feed our imaginations. I'm more likely to lean into using stories that are brand new to people, like stories I've told here before, like Spork, or There's No Such Thing as a Dragon. Stories that maybe don't have such a history with folks. I was raised a Christian fundamentalist, and I have had to wrestle with stories that had been weaponized against me. Stories I had been told were literally true. I had to re-examine them in terms of what insights they might help me explore, because they were originally gathered as stories that pointed a group of humans towards truth or justice or both. I, too, can choose to set aside the weaponized use of some of these texts and explore the usefulness in them. I invite you to join me in that today as we explore together the idea of call and covenant in our current world. As you listen, you may notice that you find yourselves aligned with a character or imagine yourselves in the story somehow. Pay attention to that. Now, we started with a story from Isaiah from 2,500 years ago. And the larger context is that God was really mad at Israel because they were not doing justice, and their hearts were closed against what was good. Isaiah also recognized this as a problem, and when God asked for a volunteer, Isaiah volunteered. Really straightforward. It's nice when the little stories from the Bible are really straightforward, isn't it? Very handy. Then the story of Saul, whose name became Paul on the road to Damascus, it was written down between 60 and 150 CE, 30 or 80 years even after Jesus' death. It's the story of a man who was a terrible persecutor of Christians, who literally traveled town to town to root them out. It took a dramatic intervention wherein he was traveling, riding in a donkey, and the risen Jesus appeared to him, gave him a real good talking to, threw him off the donkey and onto his bottom, onto the ground, and he was blinded. This was a man for whom subtlety was insufficient. Now, the next part of the story was that his colleagues took him to where they were going, And then they took him to Ananias, a Jewish Christian who became love's hands in the world and healed Saul's sight. Saul's name then became Paul, and he completely changed his ways 180 degrees. He became as enthusiastic for this idea of Jesus and this peaceful reign of God as he had been against him. This is my retelling of another story, also from Scripture, from the Christian Scripture. Andrew was the first disciple of Jesus, traveling the countryside, telling people that the reign of God, of justice, of peace was coming. Meanwhile, his brother Simon Peter was keeping the family fed. He was a fisherman, and he and their other brothers had the same routine day after day: boats and nets and fish, and boats and nets and fish. That routine likely took care of their family, kept them fed and housed and clothed. We'll never know if Peter enjoyed being a fisherman, but it's not a stretch of imagination to believe that he was likely very used to and comfortable with his routine. Andrew went to see his brother Peter at the seashore one day and said, "Peter, you have to come see this guy. Oh my gosh, he's amazing. It's going to change everything." Peter had work to do. He had his regular life and his routines. Now, he may well have already been angry at Andrew for traipsing about the countryside, following a prophet who preached about justice for the poor and healing for the sick, and the meek just inheriting things, leaving him and his brothers to work. He was like, I think of him as Peter the resistant. He just kept saying no. But Andrew kept after him. Really, Peter, Jesus is so fascinating. He has these really important things to say about being whole and doing justice. And I'm telling you, it's going to change everything. Finally, Peter parked his boat, put his nets away, and went to hear Jesus. Because of this, Peter's life also changed 180 degrees, and he ended up being the person credited with the founding of the institutional Christian church. Andrew, on the other hand, is rarely mentioned again in Scripture. And one more story. This one's from 20, 25, 30 years ago in New York. This is a variation on a story that originally was in the New York Times. There was an older woman who was riding the subway in winter. She was dressed as usual in a wool coat, scarf, and her favorite leather gloves. She had had them for years, and they were so perfectly worn, at each knuckle bending just so, soft and supple, her perfectly shaped comfort. The train came to her stop, and she got off. As she stepped onto the platform, she realized that she had dropped and left behind one of her gloves. She looked into the car as a gaunt young man in a thin cotton coat picked the glove up from the floor and started reaching towards her with it. He moved to the doors as quick as he could, but wasn't fast enough, and the doors began to close. It was clear he wasn't going to make it. In a flash, the woman threw the other glove into the car. Before we continue, I would like to ask everyone to reflect silently for a moment about all of these stories. As you heard them, Isaiah, Paul, Andrew, Peter, the woman, the young man, where were you in these stories? Did you imagine yourself as Isaiah immediately saying yes to the call of love? Or Andrew desperately pleading with his brother to come hear some information and some news that would change everything? Or Peter, who was committed to hard work, responsibility, and an absolutely predictable life? Did you imagine yourself as the woman who lost a beloved glove, or the man so sure of himself that he had to be thrown from a donkey in public and blinded in order for justice and love to get his attention. Did you notice where you aligned with people in these stories? I did. And it is my practice in my preaching to use myself as a cautionary tale. So here goes. When I first heard the story of the woman in the gloves, I could not mask my absolute surprise at the end. I gasped audibly. I had located myself in that story as the woman who wanted her glove back. I felt some sort of lovely fondness towards the young man who was trying to give it back. The glove belonged to her. It is her perfectly fitted comfort, and so she, of course, would want it back, and he would show his loving generosity by returning it. That's how I expected the story to go. My thinking was rooted in the idea that gloves are property. The gloves were hers, so returning property to its rightful owner was the right thing to do. Now, I don't know if you all were as surprised by the ending as I, but it is clear to me that for me, I was absolutely stuck in the frame of property and ownership. I, like Peter, who fished the same every day, or Saul, who was sure that the Jewish Christians were evil heretics, I was confident that I knew enough as I heard the story that I could predict the ending. The thing is, gloves serve a function. They keep cold hands warm. The function of gloves is a completely separate matter from ownership. It was winter, and this gaunt young man had a thin jacket. Had I thought about the story through the idea of the young man, through the idea of the function and purpose of gloves, rather than as property, it's a different story even before it ends. If I think about the story through the function of the glove, instead of the love this woman had for her perfectly shaped comfort that fits her so well, then the solution to the problem is different because the problem is different than what I had imagined. The woman on the subway lived her call to be love's hands in the world, and instead of clinging to her perfectly shaped comfort that she wanted, she made the pair whole and offered them as a gift to a man who needed them. I would suggest that perfectly shaped comfort has impeded many of us on our growing journeys and impedes beloved community. Since our individual perfectly shaped comforts cannot possibly be the same, striving only for what we want becomes a block to being beloved community. Now, the truth is, we can name it as we choose. We can say we are called by God or by the sacred or by one another or by our highest imagination, called to beloved community, called to the reign of righteousness and justice, to the wellness and wholeness of all of humanity. I understand the sacred as love itself. And whatever our language that is most comfortable for us, I believe that we can gather around the idea that we are love's hands in the world, called to bring a beloved community of justice and liberation. As love's hands, ours are the only hands that are physically present that can offer healing in a broken world that needs mending and tending. We Unitarian Universalists, by polity and theology, are called to covenant and community. We're not obedient to a single religious authority, but accountable in relationship and covenant one with another. All of us, in different ways and at different moments, are called forth into covenant and community to serve one another, love, and justice. Isaiah, Saul, Andrew, Peter, the woman on the subway, the young man on the subway, all of these people from different millennia with different priorities, languages, and commitments, all of these people found a way to be love's hands in the world. Honestly, I can't imagine when I think about the Hebrew and Christian scriptural stories, I can't imagine that those 4 God followers would have liked one another very much. There was a lot of highly opinionated personality there. But they made common cause across millennia as love's hands in the world. We gather as congregations, as community. This means that sometimes one or others of us choose to drop our nets, stop doing everything the way we have always done, and consider that there is something more to learn from a different way or a different person. We choose to be in covenant with one another, which means that we find ways to do good in the world even when we don't speak the same language or use the same word for the sacred. We join folk from other faith traditions in our work for justice. Being in covenant means that sometimes our own needs are centered, and sometimes we set aside our desires, our wants, in order to center someone else's needs. We differentiate need, desire, and want. It means we find ways to work to better the world, even when we ourselves are also highly opinionated personalities. Not that that ever happens. Some of us manage this task of community life easily. Someone says, "Who will do this new thing?" And we're like, "Oh, me, I'll do it." Others of us are quite sure that we already know the right way and we don't want to do it any other way. Back to the stories for a moment. When we notice how we align ourselves with people in the stories or imagine ourselves within it, we can learn quite a lot about ourselves. When we heard the story about the woman, the glove, and the man, who were we aligned with? When we hear the story about Andrew and Peter, do we imagine ourselves as Andrew discovering something new and life-changing and rushing to bring someone else along? Or do we imagine ourselves as Peter, doing what he does and has done for 20 years from sunup to sundown? Andrew asked him to interrupt his routine, asked him to change the way he liked things, the way he did things. "No," said Peter for a very long time. Now, I want to be Andrew. I align myself with his youthful exuberance, pointing people towards growth and liberation. I feel that I am called to be like Andrew. But in truth, I'm often Peter, saying no because I've always done things another way and I like my predictable routine. Some of you may have seen a British TV show from the 1990s called The Vicar of Dibley. Any of you seen it? Oh, I heard some chuckles. Yes. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's about a vicar. The minister and most of the characters are members of the congregation's board of trustees. 3 seasons and innumerable specials, I commend them all to you. Anyway, there is one member of the board, Jim, and whenever a question is put before the board, or to Jim personally, no matter what the question is, he answers, no, yes. Now, this program, you might imagine, was very popular and even still is among religious professionals. One day I was at a planning meeting with a number of colleagues 15, 20 years ago, and suddenly one of my colleagues laughed out loud and burst across the table, said, "Oh my gosh, you're Jim!" Sadly, everyone immediately knew what she meant. I want to be Andrew. I think I'm called to be Andrew. But my natural inclination is that the glass is half empty and cracked and leaking. My natural inclination is to identify first all the reasons something wouldn't work, to say no, that my love of my perfectly shaped comfort, which for me isn't a glove, it's predictability and the way I've always done it. But I'm not called to be Peter, the resistant, or the woman loving my perfectly shaped comfort and habit. I use this entry point of noticing who I am aligning myself with in stories to help me figure out who do I imagine myself to be and to hold it up against how I behave. I imagine I'm Andrew. I'm called to be Andrew. I often behave like Peter. I must ask questions about myself like, who am I in this moment and to what am I called? And how will I contribute to beloved community of my congregation, my community, and the world in this moment? The answer is rarely perfectly shaped comfort. When I can do this reflection is when I am best positioned to act. When I differentiate who I wish I was and what I'm used to from to what I am called. That's the stretch. That's the pivotal moment of decision making where it will matter what I do next or it will not. There's things to do. People to be fed, hands to be held, committees to serve on and make decisions, newsletters to fold, trust to build, and curiosity to invite. Actual physical, emotional, and spiritual acts of community. I will choose the wrong act if I misunderstand who I am in the story. I believe that we are all called at its most core to be like Isaiah, to volunteer. And like Andrew, to share some truth, to point people toward new learning. Like Peter, to interrupt our routines and consider something from a new perspective. And we often, like me at that committee table, must rely on one another to help measure the tasks and choose the goals based on our collective values, to make sure that we're volunteering for the tasks that are right. You may remember these words by Donna Markova. I will not die an unlived life, and I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days. For me to inhabit my days and to live my life, and maybe you as well, I must make sure that is actually my life following the call to be love's hands, not in reaction to fear or desire for perfectly shaped comfort, not as a solo endeavor full of my personal opinions alone, but in beloved community, testing my ideas and opinions against new learning and sometimes inconvenient facts. I need my beloved people to offer me feedback and insight, to test, challenge, and invite me to answer the call of love in the best way possible, to make sure that I am not living a life of myth and misunderstanding myself, or chasing after perfectly shaped comfort. Beloved community, justice on earth, this is not and never will be made up of perfectly shaped comfort. It's made up of meeting needs and healing the world. There is little comfort in wearing N95 quality respirator masks for worship, but it is an act that makes it possible for medically vulnerable people to be present among us. The comfort is weighed against the reality that everyone masking is more than 10 times safer than just one person who is vulnerable masking. The truth is, there is little personal comfort while we fight book bans, bans on reproductive and gender-affirming health care, racism, and more. There's sometimes pride, and there's sometimes commitment and determination, and this is really important. When we do so, we offer comfort to those most impacted by these evil constraints on freedom. But it is not usually perfectly comfortable to rise for marginalized people in the face of an angry and aggressive group. There's not a lot of personal comfort in showing up for justice to protect people we may once not have thought about at all. Iowa Nice, which we talked about this weekend some in the workshops, doesn't get people free. It sometimes takes getting thrown by a donkey in front of people, or being challenged to consider that the life of comfortable routine is not the best life, is not the life you are called to. It often takes those things to make us change. Alternatively, we could simply volunteer. In covenant and community together, we forge a new world of justice and love. In an accountable relationship with one another, collectively bearing witness to the full complexity of the world and choosing to tend and mend that world. There's no perfection in this acting. There's only the choice not to die an unlived life, to dedicate it instead to following the call to be love's hands in the world, together, decreasing harm and increasing justice. I volunteer. Do you?
Thank you, CB. Sorry, trying to figure out where I was. Our offering today and how we give what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. In response to the abundance we are blessed with, every week this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and principles. Our community partner agency this month is Domestic Violence Intervention Program. The Domestic Violence Intervention Program, DVIP, provides comprehensive support and advocacy services to victims and survivors of domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, and human trafficking, focusing on immediate and long-term safety, empowerment, dignity, and hope. Services include a 24-hour hotline, in-person advocacy, criminal justice and economic support, an emergency women and youth shelter with kennel services, and more. In the sanctuary, the ushers will collect the offering, or you can follow the instructions on the screen on how to give online. All cash contributions go directly to our community partner agency. In addition to assisting our community partner, you may contribute towards your pledge to our society or contribute to the congregation to provide additional support for our operating expenses. You may also contribute by check, using the memo line to designate the purpose. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is almost completely supported by the generosity of those who join with us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts. And now, an inscription of hope from our UUS singers.
Before we sing, I just want to mention that Inscription of Hope is taken from a real inscription from a basement during World War II where some loving hands were hiding Jews. And I just wanted to mention that because I know along the Gaza Strip right now there are many Jews also bunkering, where they can stay safe. So here we go, Inscription of Hope.
Nurturing gratitude and how we understand and express interdependence is part of how we live our Unitarian Universalist faith. May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love's hands, our beloved community and justice. Immediately after the service, we gather in the fellowship hall and outside for conversation and community. Our discussion questions, which you may want to chat about during the coffee hour, are: how can I love more fully into my relationships and community? Does love necessitate action, or can it exist simply as a feeling? How have you been called to love? Have you been called and not answered? Why did you not? And now, to close our service today, we will sing Wo Ya Ya, Please rise in body and spirit as you are able. May love's hands be gentle and strong, guide you through life's journey long. In their tender touch you'll find comfort and solace, always kind. May love's hands hold you close. In joy and sorrow they propose to be your shelter, your steadfast guide. In every storm with you they'll abide. In love's hands you'll discover grace, a sacred space, a warm embrace. They'll lift you up when you are down. With love's hands, you'll wear no frown. So cherish love's hands, both near and far. In their embrace, you are a shining star. May they forever lead you to the light, guiding you through the day and night. In love's hands, we find our way, a blessing to cherish each day. May they forever hold you tight, guiding you with love's eternal light.
Benediction, which is, oh, not yet, sorry. Oh, we should do that. Let's do it. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again. Okay, now we're going to say goodbye in song. Farewell, my friends, or Shalom Havarim. We're going to sing all together once, and then this middle section, you're going to sing it with me. All right? And you side sections, you're going to sing with Virginia. Farewell, my friends, farewell.